Good day. It's a nice Sunday morning. I'm having my cup of coffee, and today I want to make a groovy beat and bass line. And as you can see here, clean slate, absolutely nothing here. And I'm going to show you the process that I would normally go through. And this is just one of many different ways of achieving a result. I'm going to do something that's a little bit controversial. I'm going to copy a groove. So as you probably know, if you watch my videos, there's something called groove pool. And when you take a sample, well, there's a whole bunch of grooves here, but when you take any sample, you can't see the sample here because I haven't brought one in yet. But when you take any sample, you can extract the groove. And I think that's pretty cool, but there's something that I think is just better, and I think I like it more. And that's actually kind of stealing the groove. And you may not like the sound of it, but it's not really stealing anything. You're just stealing a groove. You know, you can't really copyright a groove, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one of my favorite songs in terms of groove, and that is this one, Billie Jean. So if I'm on, by the way, I'm going to post this on, YouTube. So it probably won't get monetized because it's going to be using Billie Jean. But I don't care. I just want to make a video that you guys can like and learn from. So let's just take a quick listen to the start of Billie Jean. We've got that super cool beat. So let's just take a listen. There you go, just recorded that drum beat there. Let's just go and just analyze what we've got here. We just need the beat, we don't need the bass line. So let's just cut everything here out. Just Control E to cut it out. So we've just got it in time. Probably going to be quite off. I actually don't know the BPM of this song. Let's just actually do some research here and have a quick look. BPM Billie Jean. So it says 118. We have no reason not to trust them. So let's just bring that to 118. And just go into the clip. Just going to take warp off for now and see if we could just match the beat and tempo. We'll just start with the downbeat. I think that's, this is the kick here, right? So let's just bring that right to the beginning of the downbeat. Actually, my bad. That is the snare. Let's that's the kick there. So let's just bring that to the beginning of the downbeat. I'm just going to just reduce that adaptive grid just so we can get to the start of the kick. So you can see here that it's not quite 118 because you can just see that the snare is just falling a bit behind the beat. So just bring it right there to the top. Kind of there. Let's reduce this to, I think it's 117. Let's see if that seems visually, that seems to fit better. And let's just go with 116 actually. Yeah, the problem is in the 80s, I don't think they really quantized things. So you can see here, even though it fits here, it's not quite fitting there. So let's just bring this back to 118. 117. 117 seems to fit. And let's just make this a perfect loop. It is a perfect loop. And just press Control L just to make sure we've got a loop. Let's try 117.5. Let's try 116.5. Yeah, I think 117 is the one that fits. So we've got our sort of base here, and we can just now start warping everything to the 117 BPM. We just leave the warp mode to beats. That's cool. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to go in and create a new drum track. 707 is, for some reason, my default kit. I just love the 707 kit. Everybody has their own. I guess if you're making like house music, 808 works really well. By the way, these are stock. These come with Ableton Live, so you don't have to ask me where they come from because they come from Ableton. Let's just bring the 707 core kit in. Now what I want to do now is we have the bass drum. Let's just actually insert a MIDI clip here. We have they call it the bass drum, but it's really just a kick. So actually there it is, kick. That will do. We know there's a snare in here, and we know there's an open hi-hat. I think there might be a ride, and I wonder if there's a... Sorry about that. There is a closed hi-hat as well. So we've got open hi-hat, closed hi-hat. I'm going to just fold now so we can just see the elements that we need. We don't need to see absolutely everything. And that's the beginning there. So what we're going to do is we know the kick is here, and just take a listen to what this is. So that's a closed hi-hat. So let's just bring the closed hi-hat there. And this is definitely a snare. So we just bring the snare in. You can just see the snare moving like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think this is another hi-hat. I think it sounds the same. It's not actually exactly the same sound. I think that's like a ride and a snare. So we just and a hat. So we just bring the ride here. Once again, it's not perfect. We'll work on that later. And the velocity of the ride is going to go down because it's not really very loud. But we can also bring in another closed hat in exactly the same location. Let's just keep working our way through this. Now we have the same kick around here. Control D, we just duplicate it, and I'll just move it manually to that position. And now this looks the same as this. It's not that ride, it's just the hi-hat. So we're just going to, and by the way, I'm not trying to reproduce, I'm not trying to reproduce the Billie Jean drum sound. I'm just looking to get a really groovy drum sound. So we can change these sounds later, but I think just for the beginning point, we just want to reproduce. So we've got a starting reference. So here's that snare. We're going to duplicate that. And we're going to just keep doing this until everything kind of sounds like it's repeating itself. So let's just take a listen. Sounds a lot like this. Yep. Once again, we're going to just take that combination of ride and closed with that velocity and just bring them across. And I think at this point here, yeah, it's pretty much a loop. So we can actually just shorten the loop here like that. Let's just do that here as well. And here. That's good. And I'm going to just press Control J just to consolidate everything we've done here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select Fixed Grid off here and here. So now I'm going to get super accurate. I'm going to move stuff like that one there. I'm going to move it so it's exactly in the same position as the Michael Jackson beat. This can get super messy. Just make sure that we can actually do it. Let's actually make sure we can do it. So just move this just a touch. I'm going to just make this bigger until we've really, really nailed it. Actually, I think we did nail it. So we'll just leave that like that. Just bring this down again so we can actually see what's happening. This one here is the snare. Let's just bring that snare once again. Just align it so it's hitting exactly the same groove as Michael Jackson's Beat It, or Billie Jean. Let's be accurate, Billie Jean. So just move these ride and closed hi-hats. Same principle. We'll move them together, but I don't really want them to hit at the same time, but we can fix that later. Actually, let's fix that now. So I think the closed hi-hat will be the transient. So we just bring the ride just a little bit behind like that. And we will then go ahead and do the same thing with the kick. The kick's not right on the beat, which is a little bit concerning, but we can always fix that later. Just bring that in so it starts exactly the same time. I think these, yeah, so let's just go ahead and finish this. Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to sound because none of this has been pre-organized, and what we're going to do is going to just listen to what we ended up with. This is with no effects. So what we have there at the beginning is okay, so we don't need the, I'm going to press 0 here. We don't need the open hi-hat because we haven't placed it anywhere. And you know what? I'm not even sure we need the ride. We can't get the velocity down any further, so we're just going to hide the ride. Okay, that's super cool. Now let's just compare that to the original. It's crazy because that kick has got reverb all over it, as well as obviously the snares. In the 80s, they loved their gated reverbs, and you can really hear that here. The other thing I'm looking for, though, is there a kick playing at the same time as the snare? And there absolutely is. So it's quite hard to know just by looking at this. Actually, no, you can actually see here that you have the snare coming in just a bit before the kick. Let's just take another listen. Yeah, so that snare's coming in just slightly before the kick. So let's just copy that kick across here. It will help if I've moved this across to narrow or something like that. Yeah, just move it a bit faster. I'm using my computer keyboard as I talk to you. So we know that the snare is coming in before the kick. So what we're going to do is just going to take another listen. That kick's coming in pretty late as well. Let's just move it slightly like that. Let's just take a listen now to the drum rack. So it's not coming in that late. So let's just check this like this, and we'll just have another look here. It is actually coming in pretty late. So it's coming in there. Or maybe I got it the wrong way around. Maybe the snare's coming in after the kick. So let's just try the other way around. So we'll just move the snare here, the kick there, sorry, and we'll move the snare to come in just a bit later. No, actually, I think I was right the first time. So this kick comes in a bit later. These closed hi-hats are a little bit annoying. So what we're going to do is randomize the velocity by clicking randomize button. And you can see the velocity there. We just want to reduce the velocity just slightly for all of them. Okay, at this stage here, we have kind of the basis here of a groove. And at this point, we don't really even need the Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. Goodbye, Billie Jean. We don't need you anymore. I'm just going to just hide that here. And we're going to just now use this as the starting point for making a better beat. So what I mean by that is we want to start bringing in some cooler, better sounds. And what we can do is, for example, use certain snippets or certain samples, because everything you hear in a drum rack is basically a sample. So for example, we'll go to kick here and we just click on the show hide devices. You can just see that there is a sample here for that kick. So what we can just do is actually take some super powerful samples. I like Oliver Power. Anyone who watches my videos knows that I like the Oliver Power samples. And we're just going to take any of these drum sample sounds. Let's just take one of these drum loops. So I like this one here, so it's just going to bring this into another track. I'm going to simply take the kick element, just get that adaptive grid back on. I'm just going to take it and cut it here. I don't actually think it matters if you cut it, but I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to just send it into the kick cell like that. So that's sounding okay, but it's the tail's kind of missing from that. So let's just expand that. I'm just going to go into the controls here, and under the envelope, filter envelope. Oh, sorry, there we go. It should be 100% there. That's better. Okay, I just want a flat kick sound. Then another thing we can do actually, if we go to utility, just bring the utility into the kick sound, and if we just click on left or right, that will basically bring it into a mono situation. So, I mean, the other thing you could do is just go and select bass mono and mono. I actually prefer using the left-right piece here. So we go left there like that. So we have our kick, and the other thing I want to do, just so we don't get super confused, I just want to rename this kick again. So we've got everything named correctly. Okay, so now we can just go and listen to this loop again with that kick. So straight away you can tell there's a problem. The problem is most likely to do with volume. So just increase that volume. We may have overdone it on the filter envelope, so let's just bring that filter up a bit. Oh yeah, we have definitely overdone that. So just bring that volume back. In fact, this is what I should have done the first time around. I should have listened to the sample. You can hear that click at the beginning. We just need to reduce the attack slightly. And this needs to be 100. Oh, can you not bring it to 100? Obviously not. So, fine. Excellent. So the other thing I want to do is I want to just go back to that sample, because I did also like the snare quite a bit. So I'm just going to bring that snare. I'm going to cut that snare actually here. Control C again. And this time I'm going to bring the snare into the loop. Just bring that under sample snare like that. And this time I'm not going to touch it. We're just going to listen to how it sounds. Let's just expand that a little bit. We just want to get the beginning of that snare sample, and we'll keep the tail as well, just right there. Now at this point I need to make a decision about whether to keep that kick going, because the snare also has some kick frequencies in it. But that's fine, we'll just leave that alone for now. And similarly, there are some little hat samples in here. They're just quite small, isn't it? But it's good enough, I think. We could just press Control E again, and let's just bring that into here, into the situation of into that closed hi-hat. Once again, let's just take a look at this. There you go. So it's starting in the right place and it's finishing in the right place, so that's super cool. Finally, we're just going to get a reverb. There's already reverb on the original sample, but I want to control how much reverb we have on that kick. By the way, I just need to rename these cells, otherwise I'll get completely confused later. So we just bring in a Valhalla. Everyone who's seen my videos before knows I love the vintage verb, so I'm just going to bring that into, there it is. So I almost lost the cell, and just bring that into snare. So we can use one of the presets, like some of the gated reverbs, to get kind of that 80s sound. Let's just try the gated snare. As usual, bring the mix down and maybe just reduce that low cut. Let's try a different reverb just to see how that sounds. And let's just try again on the hats. Now at this point I'm thinking that the kick has way too much clickiness, so I'm just going to reduce that attack a little bit. So what I'm hearing here on the kick is a little bit too much tail. So I'm just going to go back in there and just reduce, we'll kill that tail basically there. And I think the warping's fine. Let's go back to that control. We've got too much filter going on here. Okay, so that's okay there for the whole thing. And the other thing you can do with these core kits is use these macro control variations to get a specific sound on the entire kit. So let's just test that out. That's clean, that's boomy, lo-fi, and hot. I like hot, so we'll just leave that like there. So that's kind of the basic drum beat that we want. The other thing we could do is if we want more layers to the beat, so say for example on the kick, so we just go into kick here, you can actually press Control G on it. You can actually add another layer to the kick. So there is a free, well, it comes with I like to call it free, it comes with Ableton instrument. This is an instrument, not a sample. So you just bring that instrument in like that. So say for example you want a bit more clickiness, you can actually just reduce the decay here. I've actually got a video about this, but I want some clickiness, and you can just reduce some of the volume as well. That's just to get a bit of extra clickiness on there, but you can also do something similar with the snare. So you can just press Control G to group the snare together like that. And with the snare you could say for example you might want to add a bit of an extra clap sound. And once again with the clap you can do stuff like change the tail, make the tail shorter like that. You can spread things out or make it thinner, reduce the decay. And sloppy is an interesting one. Just sloppy means is like how in time is the clap. So I guess if we have 100% sloppy, it just sounds like lots of hands randomly clapping. Or we just bring it right down. It's really tight. And we can also affect the tune. So if you want a bit of a higher tune element, you can just do that with the clap. Now the other thing you can do here, which is cool, you can use the chain thing and you can kind of start the clap. Now let's just do the velocity. We can just start that a bit later. So you can just mess around with that just to make sure that it's kind of working for you, and you can just solo or mute the other sound. I'm just going to reduce that clap slightly, but I think it sounds pretty cool. So what we've done here is we've basically stolen the groove out of Michael Jackson's classic, and we've got it for ourselves. And we actually here we've done more than just steal the groove. We've actually we've borrowed the MIDI, but from this point in time we can just take this and change it and use it however we want. I'm going to now start with a bass track. And what I like to do with something this groovy and funky is I like to use an actual real slap bass. So if we just go into, just type bass in your samples, and everyone's got different sample packs. I'm not expecting everyone to have the same as me. You can actually just take a listen to the samples that you got. This might take a while actually. Let's actually type in slap. I want a bit of a slap bass sound. This is what happens when you don't practice, or, you know, I'm just basically going into this video live. Okay, so some of these sound okay. Okay, that will do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a MIDI track like that. I'm just going to bring this bass loop into the MIDI track, and that wraps it into an instance of Simpler. So what we can do now is actually play it. So say we don't like that one, we just want it to start here. We can just check out the different samples. All I'm trying to do now is get a melody going, well, a bass line going, so to speak. So I'm going to slow things down a bit because I'm not the most talented keyboard player, so I do need things to be a bit slower, but I can always speed it up. Okay, here we go. So we just go back to the sample. So I think we just want to do a classic. So I want to make sure that it's sounding consistently the same. Let's try reducing that format a bit to about 50%. Yeah, we just bring that back. So what I'm trying to do is avoid a weird sound. So let's just reduce that sustain. No, that's not going to do it. Try reduce the decay. So I guess the thing is here is experimenting. That's not too bad. So now I'm just going to play some of that bass. I'm just going to duplicate so we've got a bit more space to play the bass. Now let's see what we get. So what I've done is just got this little separate section here because I think it's just a bit repetitive just doing the same thing. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this bit here, and then we'll duplicate that first part, copy and paste that here, but we'll just keep that sort of last tail section. So let's just bring that BPM back to 115 and just listen to the whole thing again. Now we can actually go ahead and check out some of the controls. So for example, the frequency controls and other settings. Okay, now we're going to go back in here and we're going to just click on quantize settings. So what we're going to do is quantize to 16th notes, but we don't want 100%. We just want, I love the way in Ableton Live 12 that you can actually see the effect of making these changes. So let's just try it 60%. Let's move this up to 80% or 100%. That's way too robotic. So we'll just bring it up to about 60 or 70%. So what we're going to do now is, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. So we're going to just compare on that bass line that they're quite out. And that's because the original, let's see if that's not it, it's this one here. That's because we have a situation where we're just using an 80s beat as the groove, so it's going to be really off in terms of the metronome, but that is okay. Let's just go off here and just move this a little bit. It doesn't have to be exact, but it has to be relatively close to the beat. So let's just move this one here a little bit as well. And this one here this one's not too bad. Just to get them relatively close. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be metronomic. I'm just manually moving this on the keyboard. So this can be a little bit before, and this one can be a little bit before as well. And the last note, just a bit too early. Now let's take a listen. So you notice I didn't change this one because everything doesn't really need to be exactly the same. But what I want to do now is just unclick fold here, is I want to just add a little bit of ear candy on the bass. So here, at this point here, I think we just need, so this point here, I think we just need a octave up. Let's just take a look at that. It's too early. It's too early. Let's just bring that back in. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's clashing with the first note, so just make that first note a bit shorter. Too early. And same here, we're just going to copy this, duplicate this, and let's just move this up. And I feel like this is coming in too late, so just bring that right on the beat. In fact, sometimes I think on the one, they probably need to come in either on the beat or very, very close to the beat. Just move this just slightly off, just a little bit off, not too much. Without completely... Okay, I've just bamboozled myself there. So just move this a little bit closer now. And same with this first note. It's just coming in just maybe a little bit too much on the beat. We just move it slightly. Maybe this one does need to be on the beat actually. So on this second one here, I feel like a variation is needed. So for example, if we just listen here. Another listen. So for example, we could change the G. We can move that to F. I'm just listening with my ear. I don't really, there's no theory here. It's just what sounds good. Okay, the thing I'm hearing now that is a little bit disconcerting is on the beat. On that beat, we just move out of this clap section to here. I'm feeling like the hat is coming in without much power. So we can either do a few things. We can either transpose it. Or we could actually go in and look at the hat. Yeah, the velocities are a little bit low on the hat. If you remember, we made them a little bit randomized. Just increase them a bit. What can really help here is just the good old-fashioned increased volume. So they're coming in a bit loud, but they're about, so this is where it's a bit difficult. They're coming in loud, but they're at the right volume. And so what that means to me is there's some frequencies that we probably need to eliminate. So let's just do that now. I'm just going to use the EQ from FabFilter. And so I'm just going to bring it at the end of the hat chain. So let's just completely eliminate the low frequencies and just increase slightly. That's better. Maybe there's too much reverb. And obviously that bass sounds terrible. So let's just go and fix that bass. That's a bit better. So what we can do now is, with the bass though, what you want is you want some layer to the bass. You want the bass to come in different layers. So what you can do is you can possibly do a duplicate and copy and have multiple tracks. And that's, I think, what I'm going to do. But the other thing you could do is just press Control G and group the tracks. Sorry. You just press Control G there like that, and then group the tracks, and you can actually add different layers to the instrument. The reason I like to have them in different tracks is because I might want to change the position of the MIDI. It's really, you can do it here as well using some of the chain functionality. So it's just so much easier just to add the different tracks, and also you can group them and compress them because you want it to sound like a single instrument. Once again, this will sound like a single instrument and you can compress it, but I just find it much easier and more visual to do it like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that. Now what I'm going to do now is, that slap bass is a real bass. It's sounding very real and very cool, but there's two things missing. Firstly, it is kind of like a layer of sub bass is kind of missing from it. And the other thing is a little bit of the high element, high frequencies, that is, missing. So I'm just going to use a synth called Repro, and you can use Operator. If you don't have Repro, you can just use Operator or Serum to do the same thing. But I just think Repro sounds very analog, and I just think it sounds really good. So let's go into presets. Now the presets are so good, I very rarely create my own instruments. The bass presets are just so good. So let's just take a listen to some of these presets. So that sounds like a good sub bass. Okay, so let's just try that one. Now, it's just about experimenting and going with your ear and just kind of listening to see what sounds good. Oh, okay. One thing I forgot to mention is the key of the sample could be any key. So when you're actually playing an actual instrument, the keys may not match. So what we want to do here is actually go to the, here we go. Go into the MIDI effects and select pitch. I'm just going to put the pitch right in front of the instrument rack, and we're going to put another pitch. It's actually good to put pitch on all of the all of the instruments, because you might want to. By the way, I love this new feature of Ableton Live 12 where you can just go up by 12, just by pressing that button. That's just super cool. I'm not sure what the block mode is. I might have to do a video on pitch because it's completely changed in 12. Always for the better. The reason I want to put this bass to 12 is I really want to hear the key, that the notes, because sometimes when you're in the low frequencies, it's very hard to hear the notes and it just takes a bit extra time. Okay, so our job here now is to go ahead and change the pitch until they're actually in key. So let's just do that. Okay, this sounds about right. Pretty cool. I just think the repro is a bit louder than the sample. We can actually increase the volume of the sample too. Very good. So there's a couple more instruments we can use. So we can, for example, duplicate the repro and bring in a, what's the name of that? Spire. There we go, Spire. Spire is really, really good at the pluck. The plucks in Spire I just really love them. So there's just so many. The problem with the Spire plucks is they just have loads of effects on them. So for example, let's just take a listen to some of these on their own. Arjuna pluck. So this one here, for example, it just sounds so much better without the effects. Now with something like this, we do want a EQ just to completely remove the lower frequencies. And we want to use that pitch just to make sure we kind of in the right key. So just go back into Spire here. All the effects are off, but I'm just hearing a little bit too much tail. So what we're going to do is cut off. Where does the ADSR on this thing? So we just cut off the release a little bit. That's it. Let's just listen to it all together. I'm just going to move a bit to the left, panning wise. Okay, so that's all good. And the other thing you can do is experiment with things like, let's just go into return track and we'll just bring a delay in. My favorite delay ever, XT, Replica XT. This is a Native Instruments thing that I've just been using for years. So we can just bring this in with a bit of ping pong and no effects, nothing, really just nothing. We leave it dotted eighth. So on the Spire, we want to maybe just see how that sounds. It may just sound terrible, so it's just really about experimenting. Let's get rid of the dotted and go straight. And get rid of ping pong. Okay, so we could do more and more layering here, but I think for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to keep the free instruments. So you've got the sample from the bass, you got the sub bass from Repro, and then you got Spire. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just group them all. I've just selected them all, press Ctrl G to group them all. There is a Sound Toys, let's go to Sound Toys, because they're amazing. Sound Toys VST. You can either use Devil Lock or, where is it? I can't find it. You can use Devil Lock or you can use, where the hell is it? A Decapitator, there it is. So you can use Devil Lock or Decapitator. So you can use that either on the sub bass, the instrument. Actually, let's use it on the instrument for now, but we can actually use it on the whole group. So all that does, let's just solo that instrument first. All that does is it just gives you a bit of extra saturation and it brings that sound a little bit more in your face. And Devil Lock does the same thing, actually. Let's just increase the tone there. I like E more. By the way, these all mean something. I've just forgotten, but E is a smoother sound. Punish is for distortion. We don't need so much distortion. And we just reduce that mix until it sounds about fine. So let's just listen to it again. And by the way, I've forgotten completely to click delay compensation, because once you start getting a lot of instruments playing together, the problem is you have a lot of latency, and so the delay compensation just kind of works it all out for you. So we've got that. Now what we want to do is we can do one of two things on the group. The most obvious thing is to use a compressor. So we can use a glue compressor. So glue compressor is basically does what it says on the tin. It glues the instruments together so they sound like one instrument. And we just listen to this by ear. Bring that threshold down. Now, one sort of technique with glue compression, and actually with any sort of compression, is just to make it like just too much and then dial it down. And the way to do that is, I think I've got the perfect positioning here. So I've got threshold and makeup. Threshold, you can just see how much is compressing, right? So you can see it's compressing anywhere here between 5 and 10 hertz. And with makeup, dB, not hertz. And with makeup, that just increases the volume that you've lost through the compression. You can see that it's clipping quite a lot, but the soft clip means it's not going to actually hard clip. You know, it's not going to sound terrible. So what we can do now is, in order to dial it back, we can do parallel compression, which means we have a mix of compression as well as no compression until you get kind of that desirable sort of state. Okay, so that's super cool, and I think just listening to this, that instrument is just a little bit too loud, that slap bass. And so is Spire. Okay, so we can just take that effect off if you don't like it too much. And one thing I keep forgetting to do is you really need to take all the low end off of any delay or reverb, because especially on a send, because it's just sending irrelevant information, which just makes the mix really bad. So we've just removed that low end. Now, the other thing I like to do is sidechain. Now, I've got a VST, which you see in lots of my videos, called Kickstart. But because this kick isn't always on the 4, if you know what I mean, if it's not straight kick, what we want to do is try something different. We want to use compressor to do the sidechain, which is kind of a traditional way of doing sidechain. So let's just go into, not glue compressor, we just use an actual compressor. We're going to add it to the whole group. Now, if it doesn't quite work in the whole group, you can try it on individual instruments. You can just literally just drag it into a different instrument. But let's just do that here. So we've got a compressor, and we are going to side chain this baby to the core kit. It's here. That's the drum kit that we used before. And if you're not sure what instrument to use, just actually play the core kit. So let's just solo that core kit. So if you're not sure which one to use, you go into post effects like that, and you can actually see everything that's being used here. So we have to scroll down to find the kick. The kick's probably right down the bottom. There it is. So we'll just bring that to, bring that to pre-effects. So now we've got all of that going on, and then we can now start doing a side chain by reducing the threshold. Let's actually listen to it as we do it. So listen to it without the compressor and with the compressor. Okay, and that is it for today's video. I know you're probably sick to death of hearing that bass line. There's so much more you could do here, but just really for the basics and just for getting started, I think this is enough. If you've got any questions at all about creating a beat like this, stealing grooves or anything at all, you've got a different technique that you want to share, definitely shout out and I'll be interested in hearing from you. Catch you later.